I'm sorry for the unappealing meal my unattractive daughter-in-law has prepared. My mother-in-law scolded me in front of our relatives during my father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration. She's not only unattractive, but also inept. I'm truly ashamed. What a disaster. Where was my dependable husband, who always cared for me? Was he tending to our daughter? He was nowhere to be found. As soon as I arrived at my in-laws' house, feeling fit as a fiddle, my mother-in-law suddenly complained of chronic back pain and became unable to move as the party preparation began. She delegated all the preparation work to me. Later, she continued to belittle me in front of our gathered relatives who were there to celebrate my father-in-law. She turned the once lively and cheerful mood into something resembling a wake. Then, my father-in-law stood up and broke the silence.
Is that all you have to say?
No one could have foreseen the series of unimaginable events that this single phrase would trigger. I'm Sarah, and I'm 35 years old. 6 years ago, I married my husband, Michael, who is 3 years younger than me. We also have a 5-year-old daughter. My mother-in-law seemed displeased with me since I was older than her son. Every time we visited her house during New Year's, Memorial Day, or national holidays, she'd make sarcastic remarks at me in my husband's absence. I wish I had a younger, vibrant, and cuter daughter-in-law, not a woman full of age spots like you. Do I really look that old? Yes, very! Don't you see your own face in the mirror every day? It does hurt to be criticized about your appearance, especially as a woman. But I thought it was better not to make a big deal of it since we had only met a few times a year. However, this seemed to irritate her even more and she began to use more harsh words. You're quite thick-skinned for an old woman. You don't get upset no matter what I say. I find it annoying that you don't show a shred of modesty. Yeah. What should I say to my mother-in-law, who only says things that make me feel at a loss for words? In front of my husband, she hides her true dark nature and speaks kind words to me. My husband seems to have no idea that I'm being mistreated by her. But if I were to accidentally vent my frustrations, I would likely be the one blamed, so I've always held back. Visiting the house with my mother-in-law present felt truly burdensome. However, it was a significant celebration for my kind father-in-law's 60th birthday. Many relatives were gathering, and we were having a grand event, so I decided to attend. My father-in-law is a quiet man who doesn't talk much, but he wraps me in his subtle kindness. When I'm feeling down because of my mother-in-law's nasty words, he gently approaches me and speaks to me.
Sarah, if you're having a hard time, feel free to tell me. If it's alright, I'd like to be there for you.
I wonder if my father-in-law realized that I was being harassed by my mother-in-law. But to protect me from further harassment behind the scenes, he consciously refrained from openly supporting me. To celebrate such a warm-hearted father-in-law, our family left early in the morning and drove 3 hours to our in-laws' house. I was feeling a bit under the weather with the low-grade fever and lingering fatigue, so my husband Michael took it upon himself to do all the driving. On reaching my in-laws' place, my mother-in-law stepped lightly out of the front door with a gleeful expression. Well, well, look who's here. It's been a while, Michael. You should show your face more often. Oh dear, you look tired.
Well, I've been driving non-stop, so it can't be helped.
I see, you've worked hard. I'll get the bed ready right away. Why don't you go rest in the back room?
I think I'll take you up on that. Sarah, you should get a rest too. You've been taking care of the kid in the car. You must be tired. Besides, you don't seem well.
Oh dear, Michael, you didn't know? I called Sarah yesterday and we planned to go shopping together for the 60th birthday celebration. You go and rest. Sarah, once you've put the luggage at the entrance, we'll head out. Of course, no such communication had come and I don't remember making any such shopping promise. Having looked after our energetic 5-year-old daughter, I'm exhausted. And since I'm not feeling well, I'd like to rest too.
Since Sarah's not feeling well, let her rest. The shopping can be done by you.
But it's your father's big celebration. I want to choose the best ingredients with Sarah. Sarah, you'll keep your promise with me, right? She certainly knows how to make a good excuse. Without giving me a chance to refuse after setting down the luggage, she forcefully pulled me by the arm and shoved me back into the car we had just gotten out of. Then, glaring at me fiercely, she snapped, I don't think you need time to rest. However, right after that, she switched her expression to a big smile and loudly said, Thank you for driving the car. I'm so happy. Knowing my mother-in-law, If I opposed her now, it would surely make the whole day a disaster. I reluctantly got into the driver's seat. I'm fine, so Michael, you just rest. I'll go shopping with mother-in-law. As I tried to hand over our daughter to Michael, mother-in-law took my daughter from my arms and swiftly seated her in the child seat, quickly closing the door. Looking after the child is a mother's duty. Well, Michael, we're off. Once she got into the passenger seat, her sweet tone from before completely changed as she started berating me. So, you can't even look after your child properly? Stop using Michael for your convenience. You're just an incompetent daughter-in-law who's only aged. What was terrifying was that she maintained a sweet facade since Michael was still nearby. Oblivious to all this, Michael waved us goodbye. I drove my unfamiliar husband's car toward a large supermarket. Of course, there was no way mother-in-law would stay quiet during the drive, and she started lecturing me right away. I'll make you regret lazing around while making my son drive. Mother-in-law, please don't say such scary things. I've been feeling feverish and fatigued since this morning. Your poor health is due to your bad management. Also, your crow's feet have increased, and the spots on your cheeks have darkened. I can't even bear to look, and your skin has lost its elasticity. I had lost all my energy to respond to her harsh words, and barely managed to arrive at the supermarket, nodding along the way. This is really exhausting. I wonder how all the other daughter-in-laws in the world manage to endure such treatment from their mothers-in-law. My high-spirited mother-in-law, without even a word of thanks, jumped out of the car and swiftly handed me 2 shopping carts. You're so slow. Get a move on. When I tried to avoid the crowds, she swiftly moved forward, filling the shopping basket with luxury foods like USDA prime beef, crab, salmon roe, and melons. And then she started to add in things clearly not needed for the day. Mother-in-law, do we need these urgently? I asked. We're bulk buying, so we don't have to come to the supermarket again and again. You should know that without being told, she replied. Feeling helpless, I let her do as she pleased. By the time we finished shopping, the 2 baskets were piled high. We're going to check out. Hurry up, stop dilly-dallying. Despite her rush, when it came time to pay at the counter, my mother-in-law showed no intention of taking out her wallet. Mother-in-law, the payment, I began, but with her hands folded behind her, she didn't move an inch. When I asked for the money again, she glared at me and got angry. You should pay for everything. Excuse me? I stammered. As a wife, it's your duty to entertain your husband's father. Don't be stingy and just pay. I ended up having to pay a total of $300 at the cash register to avoid making a scene. Not having any cash on me, I paid with my credit card. As a part-time worker trying to raise a child, this was a significant blow to my finances. And to make matters worse, I had brought $300 as a birthday gift for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, but I couldn't use that. The expense meant I would have to cut back even more on our living costs in the future, and the burden that had already been heavy just became even heavier. I wonder how I should tell this to Michael. If I report this, mother-in-law might cause a fuss. During the car ride home, my mother-in-law kept hurling insults at me. It was almost impressive how many different insults she could come up with. By the time we arrived home, my husband was still asleep, probably due to exhaustion. Upon seeing this, my mother-in-law smiled slyly and began to take advantage of me. After you put away the groceries, go weed the garden right away. Please, can I rest a bit? You have no right to defy your mother-in-law. This is the consequence for making Michael drive alone. So this is what you meant by making me regret, I murmured. If you have time to move your mouth, just go and move your hands. Hurry up, we're short on time. After weeding, clean the bathroom and the toilet. Despite the unfairness of the situation, I had no choice but to endure it for the day. I weeded the garden and then cleaned the grimy, yellow-stained bathroom and toilet, thinking that once the 60th birthday celebration was over, I wouldn't have to see my mother-in-law for a while. My husband woke up just as I had finished cleaning and looked surprised to see me.
Sarah, are you okay? If you're not feeling well, don't overwork yourself. Take a break now.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that offer.
Ouch! That hurts!
Just as I was about to lie down, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a loud yell, clutching her back. Although she had been lively just moments before, she started complaining about sudden back pain. My mother-in-law, who always presents a gentle demeanor in front of my husband, suddenly let out a weak voice.
This is troublesome. My back hurts so much, I can't do anything. My chronic back pain has flared up again. I won't be able to cook before the relatives gather. Sarah, you're my only hope. But oh, what should I do?
As much as her sorrowful demeanor seemed a bit staged, If her chronic back pain was genuine, then it would indeed be impossible for her to stand in the kitchen. Reluctantly, I pushed my weary body, asked my husband to look after our daughter, and started cooking.
Sarah, are you sure you're okay?
I'm fine. I always cook, remember? To my husband, I put up a brave front, but my body was already fatigued. Yet, it was an important day for my father-in-law. I felt that I couldn't afford to take a break. My head is spinning, and somehow the smell of food is making me sick. But I have to keep going for my father-in-law. After I managed to finish cooking, my father-in-law came into the kitchen to check on me.
You've worked hard. Thank you for preparing all this food.
Not at all. It's for you. Please enjoy it later. After that, the relatives started gathering one after another. Everyone wished my father-in-law well, creating a lively atmosphere. As we finished the toast and were about to start eating, my mother-in-law started saying something shocking. I'm sorry, everyone, but due to my chronic back pain flaring up on this important birthday celebration, the food was all cooked by my daughter-in-law. I apologize for the unappetizing food made by my unattractive daughter-in-law. Both my father-in-law and husband froze at my mother-in-law's sudden outburst. My daughter-in-law is not only unattractive, but she's also clumsy, a total failure. It's truly pitiful. Ouch! My mother-in-law exaggeratedly rubbed her back, continuing to disparage me. She's so clumsy that without my support, she can't do anything. I wonder if she can even take care of her own child. I'm so worried about whether Michael can manage with such a woman as his wife. What was supposed to be a festive atmosphere quickly turned gloomy, resembling more of a wake than a celebration. My usually supportive husband, who was supposed to be looking after our daughter, was nowhere to be found. At that moment, my father-in-law, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly stood up.
Is that all you wanted to say?
Huh?
Seems like it. Maybe we should kick out the useless one then.
Following his words, my husband entered the room, holding our daughter in a suitcase. His face was unusually stern.
Dad, as you said, I've packed her stuff.
My mother-in-law smiled at the sight, seemingly pleased.
Sarah, looks like you're getting kicked out. Hehehe.
But to her surprise, my husband handed the suitcase to her.
What?
My father-in-law's booming voice added the final blow.
Take that and get out of this house right away!
Although she seemed unable to comprehend what was happening, my mother-in-law quickly understood the situation.
Why should I be the one kicked out? It's Sarah who's useless.
The bathroom is always covered in mold, the toilet left dirty, and you call Sarah useless when you barely cook anything? Not to mention how harshly you've been treating her. I've had enough.
It's the mother-in-law's duty to discipline the daughter-in-law. I was only pointing out her shortcomings.
Discipline? What era do you think we're living in?
Realizing that an angry father-in-law, eyebrows raised, wouldn't take her side, mother-in-law turned to her usual theatrics and began crying to my husband.
Michael, don't misunderstand. We might need to take care of your father someday, right? So, I was teaching Sarah how to be a good wife. As tough as that was.
Take care of him? That's a laugh. I won't be fooled by you anymore. You've just been bullying Sarah. Even today, despite feeling unwell, she came along to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday.
Sarah volunteered to celebrate, didn't she?
Don't lie. You also made her pay for the groceries, didn't you? I found a receipt from today in her bag when she was trying to take out candies for our daughter. It shows that Sarah paid with her credit card.
I just asked her to pay because I didn't have any cash on hand. I was planning to pay her back, honestly.
Really? If I hadn't noticed, you would have just kept quiet. I've turned a blind eye to the common mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues, but you're going too far. I'm fed up with living with a spiteful old woman.
Seeing my husband and father-in-law turn away from her, mother-in-law began to blame me with all her usual acting prowess, tears streaming down her face.
So, Sarah has been making false accusations about me. That's terrible. You're all making me the villain.
No, I haven't said anything, but it's a fact that you've been bullying me, isn't it? For the sake of father-in-law and my husband, who had gone to great lengths for me, I gathered the courage and spoke the truth for the first time. I would no longer let mother-in-law have her way.
That's right. We heard about it from Mia. We also know about the nasty comments you made about Sarah at the supermarket and in the car. Afterwards, you made Sarah do all the weeding and cleaning the bathroom and the toilet.
Yeah, Grandma was mean to Mommy.
She made her clean a lot of places.
You can't trust what a child says.
Mia doesn't lie. Let's check the dash cam footage. That should clear everything up. Michael, could you do that?
Good idea, Sarah. I'll do that right away.
What is that?
Ignoring his mother's question, Michael went to the car parked outside, started the engine, and began playing the dash cam footage. The latest device, which can also record the inside of the car, was installed, so even facial expressions were clear.
Ah, it's showing. She was saying these things. I'm shocked. Everyone, come over here and watch this.
Relatives who had followed to see what was happening all checked the footage. Upon viewing, they began to comment.
This is terrible indeed.
Wow, this is the worst. Mother-in-law, who had stayed in the house insisting she wasn't at fault, began to panic as the atmosphere grew tense and ran barefoot toward the car. Everyone was taken aback by her swift movements, despite her supposed back pain. So, the back pain was just an act then.
I'm all better now.
After casually responding to my words, she tried to awkwardly seat herself in the driver's seat to turn off the dash cam, but she was firmly held by my father-in-law, making it impossible for her to move.
Stop this right now. Don't look at them.
But it was too late. No amount of yelling could help her. With all her misdeeds exposed, my mother-in-law, stunned and speechless, sank down helplessly. That's when my father-in-law casually handed her a single piece of paper.
I filled in my part. You just need to write your part and submit it.
What? Isn't this a divorce form?
I had it prepared just in case. I never thought I'd have to use it. Don't ever cross my doorstep again.
Wait a minute. I promise to stop harassing Sarah. Please forgive me.
The sight of my mother-in-law begging for forgiveness with tears in her eyes was truly pitiful. But this too was likely an act. I firmly pushed my mother-in-law away. You let the cat out of the bag about bullying your daughter-in-law at the end. I will never forgive you. You might want to leave before the neighbors gather around.
Oh no, this is terrible.
The commotion attracted the attention of neighbors who watched from a distance. Perhaps not wanting to make a scene, she promptly took the divorce form and suitcase, and her supposed back pain was nowhere to be found. She rushed out of the garden. The villain had been dealt with, but I returned home filled with guilt. I'm sorry for all this during your 60th birthday celebration, Dad. When I earnestly apologized, he responded,
Sarah, you did nothing wrong. I'm sorry for all the trouble we've caused. Let's start over.
My father-in-law smiled. The relatives also watched with kind expressions. Later, they praised the dishes I had prepared and ate heartily. At that moment, all the fatigue seemed to fly away. Thus, we celebrated my father-in-law's 60th birthday in a grand manner. My mother-in-law, who was initially reluctant to agree to the divorce, eventually agreed, and they divorced amicably. It was also revealed that she had been misappropriating funds from my father-in-law's account, and she was ordered to repay $10,000 that she had spent recklessly. Unable to find work due to her lack of experience, she now works as a janitor in an office building late at night. With barely any money left, she lives in a rundown apartment that's seen better days. On the other hand, I found out that I was pregnant with my second child. It seemed that the feeling of discomfort I had earlier was due to my pregnancy. 5 months have passed since then, and my husband Michael has been very caring. The ultrasound revealed that we're expecting a boy. Both Michael and my father-in-law are looking forward to his arrival. Already excited, my father-in-law sent over blue baby clothes. My adorable daughter is overjoyed at the thought of having a younger brother and practices taking care of a baby with her dolls every day. Watching her gives me immense happiness.
You're useless and don't work. I want a divorce. Where had the kind and charmingly smiling Neil from our courtship days gone? I've been transferred. It's a nationwide bank, so I don't know when I'll be able to return here. That's why I want you to come with me. I had quit my longtime job to follow him, but honestly, there's no point in staying with this person anymore. Fine by me. Relieved to finally be divorced, I bought a lottery ticket and incredibly won a large sum. I've come to claim my $12 million prize. Just as I was about to reclaim a happy life with my $12 million, my ex-husband Neil caught wind of it. I saw right through Neil's intentions. I couldn't forgive his plans to take the money for himself, disregarding others. I was tired of being belittled by him, so I decided to fight back. I'm Mariah, a 35-year-old housewife. Since graduating high school, I had worked for about 10 years as a City Hall employee. I thought I'd retire there without much happening. Life changed when I met my husband, Neil. We met at a restaurant near the city hall. It's a sizable place with a vast menu, popular for meals after meetings or completing significant tasks. That day, having finished chairing a meeting, I decided to treat myself to a nice lunch there alone.
What's recommended here?
A man stood in front of the restaurant, perplexed by the menu. With its extensive options and colorful displays inside, it's common to see people deliberating over their choices. I was drawn to this man, indecisively tracing his finger over the popular recommended and manager special signs. Normally, I'd walk past, but I found myself speaking to him. If you're here, I recommend the chicken Neapolitan. It's deliciously sweet and spicy.
Chicken Neapolitan? Is that on the menu?
Yes, the mix of chicken and Neapolitan ketchup is really tasty.
Then I guess I'll try that.
His smile when he said that was so charming, I was captivated. At first, he seemed like a capable businessman, but his smile had a boyish quality.
That keychain.
Oh, this? Got into it because of my sister. Just went to their concert recently.
The one just the other day? I was there too. It was amazing, right?
We hit it off over our shared love for the artist and unexpectedly ended up having lunch together. Familiar with the restaurant and it being lunchtime, our short conversation was enjoyable. I felt a sense of fulfillment, not enough even for our lunch break. It seemed Neil felt the same way as he approached me when leaving.
If you don't mind, I'd like to see you again. Could we exchange contact information?
Living my usual life in the usual place, I never expected such a dramatic turn of events. Could something like this really happen outside of a drama? Despite my doubts, we exchanged numbers. I wanted to talk more, and it was exciting to share such enthusiasm with someone. Afterward, we started going out for meals and attending events together. Our relationship naturally progressed, leading to dating and eventually marriage. We got married when I was 33 and Neil was 34. I wanted to cherish the happiness of being with Neil, but life doesn't always go as planned.
Mariah, I need to talk to you.
Neil came home with a troubled look. What's wrong? Come on, let's eat.
I've been transferred. I had to tell you as soon as possible.
I couldn't wrap my head around it suddenly. Transferred? What do you mean?
They said with my promotion, I should go see the world outside, and I can't really refuse.
Though surprised, part of me understood. After all, Neil was a banker. His bank has branches all over, so I knew transfers were part of the job. I had braced myself for this, but Neil's words and expression concerned me. Would a normal transfer make him look so down? Wait, what do you mean by the outside world? Is there something hard to tell?
Actually, I'm being transferred to Boston. They want me to train at a branch there.
What? Boston so suddenly? I knew that as a banker, Neil might have to relocate, but Boston of all places? We lived in a provincial city, so Boston was quite a distance away. We had discussed what we'd do if he were transferred before we got married. I had expressed my preference for him to go alone if that happened. But now, Neil was suggesting we break that promise.
Please, Mariah, I want you to come with me.
Wait, I have my job here too.
I fully understand it's hard, but I can't bear to be apart from you.
You want me to quit my job and move to Boston? We might return here in a few years. What about going to Boston alone till then?
Neil hesitantly responded. I thought about that, but our bank has branches nationwide, so there's no guarantee we'll come back here.
This is so sudden.
Being transferred to Boston means I'm on the fast track to success. It'll make things easier for you, Mariah.
Neil then pleaded with his hands clasped as if in prayer.
I know it's a lot to ask you to quit your job suddenly, but I hate the idea of going alone. I'll work desperately hard on this career path, so please, come with me.
I couldn't refuse after such a plea. Honestly, the thought of Neil transferring alone and how it would affect our lives worried me. We had discussed wanting children soon, so living apart seemed impractical. All right, I'll go with you, Neil, but you have to work hard, okay? Thank you. I'll do my best. I'll become a branch manager and make life easier for you, Mariah. I wish I could have told myself back then. I wish I could tell myself then not to go with him on the transfer. In Boston, Neil seemed like he had changed. He became a work-first person, or perhaps it was mostly the loss of his smile that made him seem different. Welcome home. Ready for dinner?
Huh? Can't you see how tired I am? No way I can eat.
He would go straight to the bedroom, looking as if he might collapse, his face expressionless. Mornings came too early for him, and days without a morning greeting continued. Neil, you look pale. Are you okay? I hadn't seen his smile in a long time. We barely ate together, and he usually came home after midnight. Although I heard weekends were generally free, he was hardly ever at home. Even when home, he'd stay in the bedroom shut away. It felt like living alone. I started to wonder about the point of quitting my job to follow him to Boston. Maybe I should have insisted on him going alone. But no matter how much I regret it, there's nothing I can do. I need to find something to do for myself. Just passing the days aimlessly would be such a waste. Then one day, I got an idea when I saw a flyer in the mailbox. If I'm going to be at home all the time, I might as well start working. So I applied for a job at a nearby cafe that was hiring. Fortunately, I got the job right away. Having only done office work before, everything about this job was new and exciting to me. And above all, seeing the customer smiles up close was delightful. The cafe where I worked is known for its latte art, and people come from all around to see the owner's creations. I thought how fun it would be if I could make such beautiful latte art myself. Working at this cafe in Boston, I found a new joy. In my free time, I learned latte art from the manager, spending fulfilling days. Gradually, I started thinking about how nice it would be to do something professionally with latte art. It was around this time that I began to ponder starting my own business. I dreamt of how fun it would be to have my own shop and spread the joy of latte art. These fantasies were my escape from the growing disconnect with Neil. Gradually, this escapism turned into a solid goal, and I started researching what it would take to own my own shop. But that wasn't all. Maybe I should try my luck. Around this time, I started buying lottery tickets. Working at the cafe was fun every day, and I earned my own money. I thought everything was great, but Neil didn't seem to think so. One day, while I was practicing latte art on my day off, Neil spoke to me in a bad mood.
Hey, what's with you lately, Mariah?
What do you mean? Is something wrong?
No, it's just, you're always playing around, neglecting the housework. There's dust everywhere, and you haven't prepared meals.
Of course, I did what I needed to do before going to work part-time or practicing latte art. I used to make breakfast and dinner for Neil, but he often came home late at night and skipped dinner. Lately, he would leave for work without eating breakfast, so I stopped preparing it. Neil, you hardly eat at home these days.
That's not the point, is it? Are you just making excuses because you don't want to do it?
He never used to speak so oppressively. Since moving to Boston, he seemed like a changed person.
And what's with the cafe and latte art? Isn't it embarrassing as a banker's wife? And you talk about wanting kids, but you don't even cook proper meals. Isn't that failing as a wife?
I was actually visiting the doctor between part-time hours, but it turns out there's nothing wrong with me. I don't appreciate being accused of running off to play. And about the child, the doctor said there was nothing wrong with me and asked to see you next time. When can you go, Neil? Then Neil suddenly shouted and raised his hand.
What? Are you saying it's my fault?
I didn't say that. The doctor just asked when you could come in for a check.
I've told you, I'm busy with work.
It's not like you, playing with coffee. Don't lump us together. I couldn't believe Neil would say such things. Where had the Neil who used to smile gone? Since coming to Boston, he really had changed. I feel sick. I'm going to work. Wait, isn't today your day off? And it's already evening. There's something I need to finish. It's none of your business. He left, but he didn't look like he was going to work. He was in casual clothes and sprayed cologne 2 or 3 times before leaving. Wait, do you always wear cologne? My casual question was met with a glare from Neil. His frequent rushes out of the house, mood swings, and taking it out on me were becoming too much. Honestly, I wanted to build a good relationship with Neil. Living in an unfamiliar place, he's my only family, so I want to support and help each other. But I realized Neil's view of me had drastically changed. I wanted to have a proper conversation about it. If he's unhappy with me, I want to fix it. Hey, can we talk for a minute? That's good timing. I have something to say, too. I wondered what he wanted to talk about. With that thought, I sat down on the living room chair. When was the last time Neil and I sat face to face in these chairs? Lately, it feels like we haven't even looked at each other properly. So, what did you want to talk about? Don't you already know? What do you mean? You're so oblivious. That's why you can't get a decent job. I decided to overlook Neil's comments about me for now, but I couldn't tolerate his belittling the job I loved. Whatever job you have, it's wrong to mock someone else's work, especially if they love it. I had resisted moving to a new place for Neil's transfer, but here, I found a passion for latte art and a dream to base my life around it. Neil carelessly trampled on that dream. I wanted to own a shop and make latte art my profession. I couldn't stay silent when my first self-discovered dream was ridiculed. What? Work? Calling that playtime a job is more embarrassing. It's just like playing house, not real work. Enough. What do you want to say? Then Neil, with a laugh, put a green paper in front of me. The useless, jobless one gets a divorce. He handed me divorce papers. Divorce papers? Yes, you're just living off me without working. Remember your place, compare it to mine. So that's the kind of person you are. I'm too busy with work to support a parasite like you. What? Did he think I would beg not to divorce? I stood there, holding the divorce papers. My silence while holding the divorce papers must be disappointing to him. He became increasingly irritated. Of course you don't want to write. A high school grad like you can't work properly outside, can you? What should I do with this? Hurry up. Your slowness is just like a woman who can't work. He seemed desperate to get divorced as soon as possible. Neil, filled with impatience, started fidgeting nervously. While tapping his foot, he glared at me as if urging me to hurry. This man was no longer the Neil I had once loved so dearly. Why did I fall for someone like this? And why did I come so far away with him, to a place where I knew no one? Now I only have regrets. The one thing I needed to do was clear. Faced with Neil's provocative attitude, I responded brightly. Okay. Really? Remember, you can't change your mind later. I won't. You're the one who brought these papers because you wanted a divorce, right? I'm tired of living every day trying to gauge Neil's mood. I signed the divorce papers with a smile and told Neil, I'll file these papers myself. You better do it. I'll know if you do anything strange. Stop it. If I say I'll do it, I will. Don't worry. After filing the divorce papers and finally being free, I decided to check my lottery ticket to see what the future held. I went to the familiar lottery kiosk, chatted with the lady at the counter, and handed her my ticket. She scanned it and suddenly let out a strange sound, disappearing from view. She had fallen off her chair in shock. I was startled at first, but then I saw an unbelievable number on the small display, along with the words, "Congratulations." What? $12 million? I was so shocked I couldn't speak. This was a promising restart. With this amount of money, my dream of owning my shop was now within reach. I went to the bank where my ex-husband worked to cash it in. There was no particular intention in choosing that bank. It just so happened that the bank where he worked was nearby. I never expected that visiting this bank would significantly change my situation. I rushed to the bank just before closing time to cash in my lottery ticket, feeling nervous about holding on to it for too long. As I was waiting after checking in, a woman approached me. "Why are you here? What brings you to a place like this?" Her tone was unexpectedly rude. "Well, it's not any really specific business." "Why did you even bother coming here?" "Why do you keep saying bother? Just please take care of this." What's this?" She looked curiously at the lottery ticket in my hand. "I came to cash it in." "Cash in? You bought a lottery ticket with your husband's money? How extravagant." The bank was crowded, so it's likely no one else heard the woman's rude words unless they were very close. People passed by without a second glance. It was unbelievable that such a rude employee existed, but I decided to quickly finish my business and leave. "I'm here to claim my $12 million. Her relaxed demeanor instantly changed to one of intense scrutiny. $12 million? Her loud exclamation startled me. Then, without a word, she disappeared into a back room. I was taken to the manager's office due to the significant amount of the prize. The procedure to collect the $12 million went smoothly, but I couldn't stop thinking about that extremely rude bank employee. Her disdainful look made me feel uncomfortable. As soon as I got home, I opened my laptop. Neil's bank, through a national chain, had a blog for each branch detailing daily events and promotions. I was sure I could find something about that rude employee. Browsing the blog, I discovered her name. With her name known, the situation was in my hands. While I was researching the woman on the blog, I received a message. It was from Neil, asking if we could meet tonight. Honestly, after filing for divorce and considering him a stranger now, I saw no need to meet, but I decided to oblige. Neil's pride must have made contacting me a humiliating ordeal. His message was full of condescension, saying things like, "I thought you'd be lonely, so I'll meet you." Or, "I figured you'd had enough of living alone." I was furious inside, but wanted to settle things, so I agreed to meet at a cafe. When we met outside, Neil immediately started talking upon seeing me. "Hey, shouldn't we give it another try? I've been thinking a lot since then." "Give it another try?" "Yeah, I was angry back then, and said things I didn't mean." "So you want to start over with me?" Looking at me, Neil continued. "Yes, we've had our misunderstandings, but I believe we can still become a great couple." Watching Neil, clearly intoxicated with his own words, I decided to settle this. "If you insist, maybe we could give it another try." "That's the Mariah I know." "Did you really think I'd say that?" Neil looked at me shocked, so I decided to enlighten him. "I'm glad we're divorced. You wanted to reconcile for the money, right?" "Money? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb. You thought about keeping it all for yourself, didn't you?" Neil leaned forward across the table, pleading. "No, of course not. And $12 million is a lot of money, perfect for buying a house and starting anew." "I never mentioned $12 million, did I?" Neil finally realized his mistake and covered his mouth, but it was too late. He had already let it slip, and covering his mouth in a panic, couldn't undo what had been said. "You had an affair, found your wife bothersome, so you decided to divorce, and now you want to remarry for money? Don't make me laugh." "No, it's not the money, it's just that—" "Do you even realize what you're doing and saying?" Neil was visibly uncomfortable and restless. "So you heard it from that woman, Rebecca, right?" "What? What are you talking about?" "I know you two are dating. You thought if we got back together, you could buy Rebecca even more gifts, right? Despite the cold season, Neil was sweating. Did you really think you could fool me with such a trivial excuse? I showed Neil the photo I was holding. I thought something was odd when I visited the bank. Then this very rude woman approached me. I found her distasteful, but she turned out to be your girlfriend. The photo I was holding was of Neil and Rebecca standing together. They didn't look like mere colleagues, but rather like a couple standing close to each other. To claim they were just workplace acquaintances would be quite a stretch. If he was trying to pass off that implausibility, he really needed to think again. I work at a cafe that turns into a bar at night, and I was surprised to see you two on a date there. I heard about it from the owner and colleagues, but I couldn't believe it. Well, I asked the owner, and apparently, you two have been coming there occasionally for about 2 years. My hand holding the photo was trembling. I had only worked part-time during the day, waiting for your return, but you were cheating and planning to leave me for the younger, beautiful Rebecca, weren't you? Neil had no response, looking down. But then, I won the lottery, and you changed your mind, right? He looked at me guiltily. So you thought if you withdrew the divorce, you could squeeze money out of me as your husband? That's right. Money is a shared marital asset, right? I've been living with you for years, so if we got back together, it would still be shared property. Wait, are you serious? I sighed at Neil's words. How could he have the nerve to propose reconciliation after he was the one who initiated the divorce? Sure, I have the lottery ticket, and I won a substantial amount, but I bought it after we filed for divorce. What? What does that mean? Be clear. It means it's not the subject to property distribution. I've already checked with a lawyer. Neil looked at me with a resentful expression. You can't be serious. You initiate the divorce, and when I come into a significant amount of money, you think we can just get back together? I never said that. But that's the reality, right? I heard it. I operated my mobile phone. What played was a recording. From the background noise, I could hear Neil and Rebecca's conversation. They talked about my $12 million win, and how getting the money before divorcing would make buying a house a reality. The woman's excited voice in the conversation was notable. This is from when you were talking at the bar. How did you get this? I was recording a video, and your conversation accidentally got recorded. So you were planning to take my $12 million win and enjoy it with your mistress, right? Because it's not fair for you alone to be so lucky. You just play around at the cafe and then get a fortune? And you can't forgive me for 1 or 2 affairs? From my point of view, it's you who's out of line, always playing around. I couldn't understand how my part-time job and Neil's affairs could be compared, but I decided to settle this matter once and for all. All I wanted to say was about that fact. This branch? It had some colleagues who attended our wedding, right? The world is really small. So, what if a colleague was there? What does it have to do with you? I showed them the video because they wanted to see it. They're interested in flair bartending. Oh, and by the way, the video includes your conversation. Then, Neil stood up from his chair with a loud noise. He stood up so abruptly that the chair toppled over, making a loud crashing sound. Hey, what are you thinking showing that to a colleague? They wanted to see it, so why not? What are you doing to me? Holding his head, Neil crouched down. It was understandable. One of Neil's colleagues, who attended our wedding, was rumored to become a manager. Being noticed by this colleague meant getting off the promotion track. All my efforts, up to this point, and to be discovered by that guy of all people. You thought it would be fine, as long as it wasn't discovered, right? Neil ended up far off the promotion track, now relegated to a teller dealing with shredding duties. Overtaken by his juniors and regarded as a nuisance at the bank. But that was their own responsibility. They chose the path that led them here, so they should accept the consequences. Rebecca was called by her boss and told that resignation was her only option. Rebecca reportedly insisted, "I really don't want to resign." But once her affair was exposed so publicly, she had no choice but to resign. Eventually, she resigned. Rebecca, it seems, was the kind of person who couldn't do her job well. She couldn't understand instructions, did sloppy work, and essentially couldn't do anything, resulting in her not getting any job offers, even though she was registered with the temp agency. After the divorce, it seemed they blamed each other. I continued to practice latte art and decided to go independent. I was unsure about starting my own business, but the cafe owner was very helpful with various consultations. Thanks to the owner's kindness, I was able to open a new cafe. I had been doing administrative work at City Hall since high school graduation. However, following the transfer and discovering the fascinating work of latte art was a stroke of luck. If Neil had gone on his transfer alone, I likely would have never encountered latte art. There were certain nights at first, but thanks to word of mouth and magazine features, the cafe did well. I never dreamed of owning my own shop, so it's true that you never know what life will bring. That's what makes life interesting. Being able to enrich my days with something I love is truly fulfilling. Such modest happiness brings me great joy.